Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon to you all. As you've heard, I'm Stephen Hockman. I am Queen's Counsel practicing as an environmental lawyer in London. But I also have the good fortune to be leading a group of people in the UK. We call ourselves the Coalition for an International Court for the Environment. And our objective, as the President said, is exactly the same as the very long-standing objectives of the Foundation, namely the setting up of an international environmental court as soon as possible. I would describe myself, if I may, with very great respect, as Judge Postiglione's much younger brother. We have been going for much less time than the Foundation, indeed for a very short time indeed, but like all younger brothers, we are very respectful towards and supportive of our elder brother, and we hope that we can add force to the objectives of the Foundation and the attainment of its objective. There is a paper which is available and which I think will be on your website fairly soon, and so I don't intend to say anything in detail about our work, but simply to summarize our ideas in a very few sentences. Despite the existence and the work of the very distinguished courts and tribunals which we've been fortunate enough to hear about today, the International Court of Justice, the Permanent Court of Arbitration, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, we still see a desperate need for a new body. The need is partly environmental, the deficit in environmental jurisprudence, which we've heard about. The need is also legal, the need for a new judicial body, which by the very power of its reasoning can have an influence on the way that people throughout the world think about these problems. So we are completely convinced of the correctness of the aims, but we go further because we believe that the only way in which this can be achieved is if a group of people, maybe from civil society, actually seek to put it in place. If we wait for the governments of the world to decide that this is a good thing, we may well be waiting for a very long time. And so our aim, ambitious though it might seem, is to create such a body, perhaps to be cited in the developing world, whose confidence in our international legal arrangements is so vitally needed, and to show by those actions that we believe that justice for the developing world and for the people in it is of crucial importance. And we would open the doors of this institution not merely to individual states, but to NGOs and to companies and to private individuals, so that it would be a truly international court. And if you ask what law would this court administer, we would say, drawing this principle from private international law, that an international court for the environment could apply the proper law to the dispute that it was hearing, could apply the law that was appropriate to the dispute. We see that as being an acceptable and workable principle. And if you ask, and let me make this my last point, if you ask, what use would such an institution be if it has no power, no physical power to enforce its decisions? Our answer to that would be as follows. First of all law, in the end, is dependent upon the consent of those to whom it applies. So this is not really such an original question as it might seem. But I can add this point, which I draw from the very recent decision of the International Court of Justice, Argentina against Uruguay, that we've heard a great deal about today, a very interesting decision, in which the court itself points out that its ruling in favor of Argentina, and this is the phrase they use, at least in the English version of the judgment which I have read, gives a measure of satisfaction to the complainant. In other words, the declaration of what is right and what is just under international law is itself important, itself establishes the position itself will enable us to carry forward our thinking and will be persuasive throughout the world. So we don't think that this argument that the court will have no teeth is an argument that should deter us in any way from seeking to promote and indeed to create the existence of such a body. So I conclude by saying thank you very much indeed for the invitation. I think I heard you express a slight question mark as to whether the time is now ripe for this endeavour. In our view, and thanks very largely to you and others sitting around this room, the time is ripe. Thank you.